Hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Patrick. I'm VP of Products at Wisdom. I'm very happy to be here today. And today, the idea is to run the session that I did back at TC24 San Diego. We had a full room, even people standing at the back. There was about 130, 140 people. We had lots of people coming to see us at the booth afterwards. So it was a great buzz. So we thought we need to do this again for people who couldn't make it. So today the session is about empowering governance for your analytics. And by that is by giving you, and we'll share a lot of details in the second half of this presentation, to give you the ultimate BI testing checklist, so you can you can implement a lot of good governance and testing back with Tableau. The usual disclaimer, we'll be talking about some features that exist in our product today, others that will come in the future. I will not let you read every single word just now. TC24 was awesome. For those of you who have been there, I'm sure you've seen the buzz online. I was fortunate, my fourth TC, and the first one in 2019, just before COVID, and it was in Berlin, back when we used to have TC in Europe. I'm out of London myself, and it was great to discover the Tableau community, the buzz around the technology. It was really cool. And second one, TC22 in Las Vegas after COVID. You see here, I'm with my colleague Bruno. It was so good to reunite with colleagues after years of lockdown and everything. So it was great to be there. And well, after that, the year after, TC23, for the first time, Wisdom, we had a booth at the conference. We were exhibiting. We were about 15 Wisdomers present there. There was a lot of work, really hard, but those who know me know there was a lot of partying hard afterwards as well in the casinos of Vegas. And this year now, I built this slide deck obviously before the conference because we had to submit our slides a couple of weeks before. But I wanted to reflect, how is the Wisdom team going to be at the conference, and what would be the main outcome? And my prediction, and it turns out it was true, or obviously true, is it was going to be the year of AI, right? Tableau Pulse, awesome product on top of AI generated analytics on top of your Tableau data, really awesome. And Tableau AI, or Einstein AI as it was called a bit before. So a lot about AI, and it was really impressive to see Tableau innovation around all that. Now, in this session, after this short 4 minutes introduction, if there's two things I would like you to remember by the end of this session, is the word trust and the word governance. So as data engineers, architects, owners, leaders, developers, all of you here today, how are we going to enable trust and implement trust in our data and analytics solution? Because I'm sure you have some users who have doubt and have lack of trust, and some be nervous about some of the content, and I'll talk about that in a second. So trust, enabling trust, keeping the trust, it's easy to lose, so we want to keep it. And governance, how are we going to better govern our data and our analytics solutions? Now, the reason why I use these two slides here is because I really like the analogy of comparing cooking and data and analytics. And the one sentence to remember here is that it's very, although it is possible to have a meal, to have a plate of food out of a messy kitchen, you'll be able to have messy reports and messy dashboards, out of bad data. So we want to have a good food, we want to have good analytics. Well, for that, we need to have governance. So the agenda for today, well, you guessed it, we'll talk about governance. And the second half, we'll talk about this ultimate BI testing checklist, give you a lot of pointers and even a free download of an ebook with a lot of details. Now, ask yourself, would you bet your job, your reputation, the next decisions you'll make out of the data or AI driven, data that you have with your analytics? And I know we do that every day. That's why we have reports. That's why we have dashboards, is to make decisions. But some decisions are, let's say, more serious than others. And would you be able to make any decision with the analytics that you have today and bet your job on it? Now, if the answer is yes, good for you. If the answer is, it depends, because sometimes I've got problems or sometimes things are not up to date, this is what we'll be talking about today. Now, here's a fun story. Now, I have two daughters, teenage daughters, 17, 20 years old, and it would be the same thing if you had young kids here. Let's imagine they want to organize a party, a kid's birthday party or this kind of party here. Would you be happy to say, okay, here's the house and I'll come back in a couple of days and do whatever you want? Or you want to say, hey, let's do this a bit sensible, right? And you can go in the living room or you can go in the garden, right? But maybe people shouldn't go in these rooms or do these things. So let's talk about this, boundaries and parties at the same time. I like to party, so I thought that was a good history. Now, governance is not, it should not be about stopping innovations. It shouldn't be about stopping people partying and having fun or telling users what to do and not do. But it's about, doing it with the right policies and the right boundaries to make sure that these people doing self-service, these people doing innovation, they do it in a safe way. Now, you may recognize the image on the left. That's the one I use about TC24 when I explained, it was my fourth visit here. Now, it's an image I created with AI. AI is fantastic. I'm so happy to see that Tableau has different solutions around that. But if I was going to use this image without validating this image and making sure it's right, we would see that wisdom is spelled with 4 eyes. Now, 3 eyes, I don't know for you, I think 3 eyes is enough. It's plenty of eyes in wisdom here. But not only that, we see that Tableau is not spelled properly, Conference has an S, there's a guy there supposed to be me, he looks way too young. So again, it's fun to play with AI, it's fun to play with innovation, a lot of self-service is good, but we need to make sure it's done right and that the outcome is going to work just fine. So which is why we need governance. We need to validate what we have, we need to observe and monitor, but we need to do this at scale. So some of you will have those very important dashboards which are given to regulators or the boards to make decisions. These will be a small percentage of your entire estate. You want to monitor those ones. But for the people doing self-service analytics or people doing Tableau Pulse, for instance, you want to make sure that your data sources are validated. So the data is right, the data is refreshed, and then these people can do all the fun and the partying around with your data and doing it safely. Now, something we hear a lot when we go to these events like TC24 is people will come to our booth and say, hey, the data in my database is right. We just spent, for 20 years, we've been building ETLs and data warehouses and data marts, Tableau prep. We have cataloging solutions. We have the data add-ons even. The data is right. Why would it be wrong in Tableau? Well, this is what we'll talk about today. It's important that you govern the entire data chain, because at the end of the day, users will make decisions out of a dashboard, not out of a query into a database. So it's important to test the data the closest it is to the end user. And where is that? It's in your Tableau workbook, it's in your Tableau Pulse, and so on. Now, you may have seen some of these problems before because they are common. I'm sure you've seen somebody looking at one of your reports. Let's pretend a sales executive here, and it says, right, okay, the margin for the last quarter was 32%. And the guy will say, we never have 32%. It's usually between, I don't know, between 8 and 10. So suddenly this dashboard, there's a lack of trust, there's a problem, and it can lead to bad decisions if people do not know what these numbers are. Or the multiple truths, people saying, listen, why I like this with HR data. I opened report 1, it says I have 10 users or 10 employees in this team. I opened another report, and for the same team, it says I have 18 employees. How come one is 10, one is 18? Maybe both are right, maybe both are wrong. Maybe they are both, maybe they're both correct because one considers full-time employees and not the other. But again, it gives people sometimes challenging this information because it could be incorrect. So users to understand that the data has been validated, although it's different, that will give them confidence. Or people having issues with reports not loading at the right time. And I could even add a fourth box here with AI generated analytics, like Tableau Pulse, for instance. It's very powerful. AI will generate charts and messages for you, but because it's AI, it's not a human creating this. Is it going to be, will I have any problems? Now, when people come to the booth and they say the data is right in my database, it has to be right in Tableau. All of you today who are Tableau developers, you know how it works. You create one or many data sources. You may end up doing some joins. You may even customize the SQL from time to time. Once you're done with the data, you'll create some calculations, some filters. Your columns may be renamed or the type could change. If you use extract, the extract could refresh partially or not at all. So you have incomplete data. So there's these analytics solutions have a lot of modeling now. Tableau just announced a new semantic layer that will come in Tableau later this year. So the more modeling you do inside of the analytics solution, well, the more you're at risk of transforming what was validated and really good in the databases, which is why governing, validating, testing, monitoring, and all of these things of your Tableau platform is more important now than ever. And the objective here is to keep the trust, because losing trust has a lot of different issues and risks. You see them on the screen here. So we don't want to go there. We want to have good content, validated content. Users keep the trust. It will build up adoption of your platform, so everybody is happy. So how do we promote innovation, self-service, but at the same time prevent the chaos? Now, you may have seen this picture before. It's from Tableau Blueprint. Great content, by the way. If you haven't been to Tableau Blueprint in a little while or have not seen it, I fully recommend it. But you see here on the left, we have validating, governing the data. And companies have been doing this for a lot of years. There's a lot of maturity about doing this, and it's good. But what Tableau Blueprint says, and I cannot agree more, is that we need to apply the same governance, but to the content, the BI content. So the security, validating the content, validating the data inside of the content, certifying it, and so on and so on. So do have a look at Tableau Blueprint, do have a look at content validation. This is what we're talking about today. Now, when we meet organizations, and I've been in the BI industry for over 20 years, I meet, customers in these kind of different buckets here. And, there's some customers who let's call it, let's call this a maturity curve. There'll be some people on the left here, maybe, and they are a bit more at risk because they are reactive. Reactive is simple, is we push something into production, it's working just fine today, and if there's a problem happening in the future, well, the users can send us a message. Now, if it's, this reactivity, it's obviously quite risky. Users may not notice there's a problem. If the data is empty, well, they're going to find out. But if the data is out of date or incomplete, they may not realize, take bad decisions. Being reactive is often more time consuming than being proactive in repairing the problems. Users will start having a lack of trust about that content. Therefore, it will drive down innovation and adoption. So reactive, I understand why it's, it is a thing, but obviously it increases risk. Now, if we try to move away and go up to in the maturity curve, well, instead of just being reactive, maybe you do some checks from time to time, right? Especially if you have adopted these processes when things are happening, right? We're going to patch Tableau server. Let's do a few tests. We're going to change something on our database or ETL or something. Let's do a few tests. Or we know this report is used once a quarter for big decisions. Maybe we want to test it. So occasional test is better than being reactive. At least you can, it's a bit of proactivity. But the idea is to do it more often and at scale. So, which is why if we keep moving in this curve towards the less risky adventures, this is where we go towards automation. Automating is simple. Is test your content, all of it, even if you want, regularly and proactively find issues before the end users. You'll spend less time repairing them overall, and then you're not going to create lack of trust on your content. And the ultimate goal is to have this enterprise-wide. So during your development process, during the lifecycle management of the content, validate automatically and frequently, and at the end, even certify your content. And I'll come back about certification in a minute, which, remember, it's part of the Tableau blueprint. Now, think of a world where you had a way to let your end users know that the content they are using, either it's a Tableau data source so they can do self-service, or it's Tableau workbooks, worksheets and dashboards, and you could let them know that the decisions they're going to take can be trusted because their content was tested this morning or yesterday, not 6 months ago when it was put in production, but it was validated, and it is validated continuously. And this is what Gartner is saying here. Gartner says implementing, and Tableau blueprint for that matter, but implementing a certification or watermarking process to let the user know that the content has been validated will ensure quality and reliability and trust. And this is what we've done here at Blueprint. At Wisdom. At Wisdom, we have our product, Wisdom for Tableau, which is an automated governance solutions for Tableau, so automated testing and validation. And at the end of a successful test, we give you the ability to certify the data source in Tableau or decertify it automatically if there's a problem, but we can do this as well with dashboards. If you go right now to the Tableau Exchange, you'll see that we have created an extension, so the Wisdom extension, and with adding this extension in your dashboard, you can have a visual indicator of when it was last certified or decertified, and therefore informing the user if the dashboard is, can be trusted, can be used or not. So this extension is available for free. If you want to manually certify and decertify, again, go on the Tableau Exchange, free. If you want to automatically certify and decertify, you take the same extension, you link it with Wisdom, and then at the end of a test that you build in a few clicks with no code at all, you can go and certify and decertify your dashboard as well. So go have a look, and don't hesitate to ask me any questions. By the way, I'll come back to these questions at the end, and if you have anything about this extension, I'll talk about it. Okay, part 2 of the presentation, the BI testing checklist. So the objective is what? Well, is to secure as far as the future of your organization with BI Tableau dashboards and reports that you can trust. So I have separated this checklist that we have in 3 different categories. And again, in 3 slides time, there'll be a QR code that you can scan with your phone to have access to the full detailed ebook for free. So first category is testing, as you can imagine, your dashboards. Now, testing your dashboards for what? Accuracy of the data. Once again, the data might be good in your database, but it's transformed a lot by the time it looks like a chart in your Tableau dashboard. So make sure the data is right all the way to the end. Validate the user experience. The user experience, it's not only the performance, making sure it opens quickly and in a reasonable amount of time, and also that when you click on filters or you work with parameters, that the data refresh properly. So all that is important, but to make sure as well that when you change filters, that the data remains correct. So accuracy when you open, accuracy when you navigate, and the overall user experience of having the right, the right performance. Make sure that your design adheres to best practices, color coding, your marketing font and logos, all of these best practices. Make sure that this is in place. There's a great on Tableau Public, I believe, is by Jaguar Land Rover, if I'm correct. There's an awesome document on design best practices. I can share the link later on if anybody is interested about that. Now, for those of you doing row-level security, I'm Patrick in the UK. Do I see only UK data versus, let's say, somebody here in Canada? Do you see your Canadian data? So again, row-level security is implemented in the product, but based on who you are, there could be people outside of Tableau doing some activities somewhere that could actually end up changing these rules. So again, validating data security is important. And I talked about the user experience, but not only navigation, but performance as well. Now, second category, put in place a BI testing strategy. So what are your more important assets? I mentioned earlier these dashboards, which will go to the board, go to regulators. If you're in financial services or healthcare or public services, you'll have regulators where you need to send this report to. So identify those, but identify as well the data sources that are used for self-service. So identify all of these things. They have to be tested regularly. And you don't want to test 10% of them. You want to test all of them. Regression testing. Regression testing is when those of you with Tableau server, I hope that you patch your environment regularly because there's security fixes, but also lots of great new features. You want to test your content after your upgrades and your migrations. Also during the development lifecycle. But we even have customers, and there were some people at the Tableau conference a few weeks ago mentioning that moving to Tableau Cloud is great because it takes away the administration and the hardware and the patching and all that. But Tableau patch their platform a number of times a year, which is normal automatically, which is great. But these force updates, as I've heard before, creates a risk for some organization, which is why regression testing, to have a picture of your Tableau Cloud content before it's patched, and when Tableau Cloud is updated to the next version, you want to compare the before and the after, make sure that there's no regressions. Important. Implement alerting, implement certification of content, like I've talked about, and all this automatically, not manual testing. Manual testing is inconvenient, it's slow, it's error prone, and nobody likes to do it, which means that sometimes we cut corners or we get busy doing other things. So have a software do that for you. It's much more practical, and you can do it at scale. Now, when should you run this test that you've just put in place? Before you share information to the same regulators or taking decisions, like I said. Some of you will be using embedded analytics. You have Tableau on your own portal. This portal is used by internal, but maybe even external people. You want to make sure that the mistake is even less possible. You cannot be reactive to mistakes with external users, where maybe you even monetize your content. So again, you want to run these tests before you share and before they are used in your own portal, for instance. During the development lifecycle, you must have dev, test, and prod, or at least a dev, test, and a prod where you work on your content. So when you do your promotion, do a regression testing. After the regression testing has been done, validate that the content still works with functional testing. Quite important. Continuously monitor your content. Build your test scenarios, especially during your development lifecycle. Reuse the team's test plans when you're in production. Monitor your content. Now, of course, updating anything that is closely or remotely involved with Tableau. It is a good time you want to test. Your database vendor, you update. You apply an update from your database vendors, or a cloud database is updating some functions that you may be using or not. You want to do that. Same with your ETL, same with your Tableau versions, and so on and so on. So again, when something gets updated, which is linked with Tableau, you want to run some testing. And after important events or projects, we work with a lot of companies who are doing database migrations. They move from, let's say, on-premise Oracle to Google BigQuery in the cloud. Well, the act of repointing databases in their Tableau content, they want to run regression testing, performance testing, data quality testing inside of Tableau. This is a very good project, for instance. So again, you should run these tests at this moment. Now, I talked earlier about doing a party. Doing a party was not about preventing people having fun, people doing self-service, people innovating, but governance is about boundaries, about policies that you want to enforce, so everybody can do safe analytics, responsible analytics. This is the idea of a checklist like this one, and applying governance. I said earlier to take your phone out and scan the QR code here. You'll get all of these items of the checklist I mentioned and more in a lot of details in this free ebook that you can access from here. Now, I will be open with questions in any minute now. So before I conclude and I have a look at the questions, thank you for your time. I hope to see you soon. Do get in touch if you want to know more about Wisdom and how we can help with automated testing, validation, governance of your content. Okay, so well, on that, I will say thank you one more time, and we'll close this webinar. So I hope to hear from you, and have a good evening and good rest of your day.